Let's get started. Okay. So yesterday we have seen some of the directives such as ng if and ng switch, ng model. Today we'll see ng for. So if we have an array of numbers, something like this, if I want to loop through this array, probably I would write a for loop in programming language. I'll say for var I equals to 0 and till its length, and I'll increment by 1. So something similar, you can do it in template. If you want to access this template, so assume that you don't have any support from Angular. So you would have done something like this. You can access array elements using index. So say li array of 0 like this. 1, 2, and then we have 4 elements, something like this. Save this. The application is running using ngserve. Here it is. We see the values. So the problem with this approach is if you have 100 elements, you need to loop or write 100 elements manually. Here, li tags. One thing. And second thing, it's not dynamic. If the elements are dynamically reduced, say at runtime, and this code is not adaptive, it actually gives you two empty dots because of undefined. So to avoid all this pain, we would use an inbuilt directive ng for, something similar to loop or for loop. So ng for is a structural directive, which means it modifies the structure of the DOM. It adds or removes or something like that. Anyhow, it is going to add more elements, as many elements as you have the items in the array. So that's why it is structural directive. Definitely it modifies the DOM structure. So asterisk is needed here. Say let val of arr. So you'll write for off loop, and this is ES6 loop for off, and something like writing like this. You'll say for var key of some object, something like that. Here you will say while. It's very straightforward, similar to ng repeat in earlier versions of Angular. You're picking one element at a time from this array and you are binding it. And this let keyword, this val is local here. Outside of this li, you don't have access to this val. It's because we have learned let is block scoped. So if you try to access the val outside of this li, you won't be able to access it. Anyway, let's have a look at it, how this looks like. Say now it's dynamic. Go ahead and add elements. It would pick up even those elements like this. So you can repeat any element. It doesn't necessarily has to be li tag. You can repeat pretty much any HTML tag. So let's convert this into an array. Oh, I mean table. I'll write a table, and which will have a tr. This is for header, and I would like to have few columns here. I'll say value, and I want this table row to be repeated 6 times because I have 6 elements inside an array. So I want this to be repeated 6 times. So I'm going to say ng for let val of arr, and this val is not a keyword, it's just a user defined name. It can be anything. This arr is a property name on the class, and now I want this val to be shown here inside a table cell. So I would like to have 3 other columns also. I'm not using them now, but I'll use them later. Here it is. So let's have a border so that it divides the column and gives us a border so that we'll know, like this. So apart from repeating this ng for directive gives us some properties such as index. So you can grab the index by assigning it to a local variable. So you're declaring a local variable and setting the index property to idx variable. And this index can be consumed here because this is local and the scope of this let is still this tr. So you have access to this idx, and this is nothing but index. So if you want to find on which iteration are you on, you can use this index property like this. Index starts from 0 till 5 you have. So like that, you have a couple of more properties that are exposed, such as whether it is even or odd. So you need to set one property, even, and you can consume that here, like this. See, 1 is not even, but it says true. 2 is not odd, but it says false. Something like that. So what's going on here? Don't look at the value actually. Look at the index. It is saying the index is even, not the value. Don't look at the value because the value can be string also. When you declare an array, it doesn't necessarily has to be a number array. It can be string. So don't look at the value, but it is saying that the index is even, index is odd, something like that. The same way you have even, you have odd property exposed by this directive. Say odd, assign it to odd. I'm going to say odd. Odd is, it is mutually exclusive to even, like this. Now let's go ahead and see one couple of more properties such as first. It tells you whether an element is first or not. FST, and I'll say LST, last. You have first and last. Let's create a header for first and last. These are again user defined names. They can be anything, but this is the property on the directive. Come back. Here it is. It is first element and the remaining are false. And this one is true. Remaining are false. First and last. So the question is, why do you need these properties? Why do you need first and last? Probably when you're doing paginating the data, you may want to know which record is first and which record is last for some reason, or you may want to load the records if that is last, something like that. And even or odd, one scenario that I can think of is you can color the rows based on even index and odd index. So you might have seen in websites, one row will have one background color, another row will have another color, something like that, alternating row colors. So you can achieve that with the help of this even or odd index. We'll see that in a minute. In a minute, we'll discuss ng class and ng style directives, and then we'll come back and try to make use of this extra properties, these auxiliary properties that we got. We'll get to know how can we use them. So let's collapse this and let's have a look at it. This ng class and ng style directives. So if you want to assign some class, you can use ng class here. Ng class, and I'll say red because yesterday I've created already a red class, and red is a string, so that's why I wrapped inside single quotes. It's not a property. If it is a property, you can remove this single quotes. If it is in single quotes, it won't be evaluated. It would be considered as a string. So you have your red class applied. If you want to apply multiple classes, you can definitely use space and apply. That is one thing. And this ng class can also accept a property. So I'm going to say CLS red. And this CLS, I would rather put it here. Now No need of single quotes because CLS is a property and that would be evaluated to red and red class would be applied. So it doesn't necessarily has to be a string. You can even pass an array because there can be more than one classes. So I'm going to apply a green class here. I haven't created this one yet. So I'll go ahead and create. I'll go to styles.css and try to create green. I'll say color green. Come back here like this. So this is kind of overriding one another. So let's say background color and color. Now see, two classes applied, background color and red. So the point here is you can pass a string as a parameter to this ng class directive. You can pass a string array as a parameter to this ng class directive. Not just that, you can even pass an object. Let's see how you can do that. So you can say red, true, green, true. Now you are passing an object. This CLS is an object. It's not a string nor an array. See, still the same colors are applied. If I want to suppress this green, I can do it. See, now it's gone. So why do you need to do something like this? This is because based on some value, you want to set a class or hide a class, something like that, set or reset a class. In that case, you can do it. You can have some operators such as whether priority is set to true or not. If priority is defined, say true. If not, false, something like that. So I'm going to make this priority is anyhow defined. Classes are applied. I'll remove something from priority. It's like now it is falsy value. So this class should not be applied. Something like that. If you want more control over how you setting the class, in that case, you can use this object. And this is more like configurable. Okay, so that's about ng class applying classes. Three parameters you can pass, three ways you can pass. One is string, string array, and then finally an object. So let's go ahead and see ng style. And if you want to apply some inline styles to an HTML element, you can use ng style. Say ng style, and this ng style accepts an object. So I'll just say style. This property should be on the class. I'll say style. It accepts an object. And if I want to set, say, color, I can say yellow. Pretty much any CSS property you can set in this object. Say yellow color. So if you want to apply background color, you can say background color, say blue or something like that. So here, if you can notice, there is an error. The reason is because of hyphen. So when you have such properties, you need to wrap it inside single or double quotes, because this hyphen is a operator in JavaScript. That's why you are having that compile time error like this. So that's ng style. It applies inline styles. Even though inline styles are considered bad, you can still do this. The class is always the best way. So always write classes if you want to apply styles rather than going with inline styles. Okay, with that knowledge, let's come back to this even index and odd index. So we have even and odd index. I want alternating row colors. I want this row to have one color and this row to have another color and repeat them. So one thing is I want my odd index to have a green color and even index to have blue color or something like that. So let's see how can we do that. So first thing, come back to our styles.css. It is really considered a bad practice to name your classes like this, red and green, because someday you didn't like the colors, and after few days of your development, you came back and you changed this red to black. you wanted to change the theme of your application, and now this is the name of the class is red and the color is black. Doesn't make sense. So what you'll do, you'll change this black. Okay, this is good. And now you have to change it everywhere. Wherever you have used red color, you have to change it. Here you have used red, so you have to change it. So like you might have used it 100 places, in 100 places. It doesn't make much sense to change it everywhere. So try to name them more generic, such as say FG, foreground color. Now it doesn't matter what is foreground color. It is blue, black, green, yellow, it doesn't really matter. And you don't need to worry about changing the actual code. You're just changing the color like that. Here it makes sense to name it as BG, background color, like that. So try to name the color, name these classes more generic, so that you need to change it very less places. So come back here. Anyhow, I'll just fix the issues. FG, BG. Okay. Now let's go back to our table. I want this row to have different colors. So here I can use ng class and write an expression. Here I'm going to say if uh, index or even is true, means if it is an even index, so I want it to have, okay, let's go ahead and create one other thing, fg2. Two foreground color classes I've created. And now if it is even index, I'm saying, okay, apply fg. If not, apply fg2. The simple ternary operator. See, if you can notice here, the foreground color I've set, and the first row has green and the second has red, and that is repeated. So that's one scenario that you can use this even and odd index. It's impossible to enumerate all the scenarios because different projects have different requirements, but just I'm giving you how you can use these auxiliary properties that were provided out of the box. Okay, so this even and odd can also be written in some other way. So you want, say, class name, this property, and we have learned that this can be an object. And here you're going to set based on some value. So actually, I need to do a lot of work if I want to do this, because I need to call a function and pass the index. That's when I'll know it. So rather than doing this, I would keep it that way, same way, because I need access to index if I want to. Just do a control Z here. I'll keep it this way. This is fine. But again, you can go with an object also here. Let's see if this works. Okay, this is EVN. Okay, looks like it's working, like an object. So that's about directives, inbuilt directives. There are a few other directives available, but we'll learn as in when needed, not now. But these are the generally used directives, and mostly we'll use ngif and ngfor extensively. Let me know if you have any questions so far. Okay, now let's go back to our app component and see what we are consuming. App home, app about. I'll get rid of this app about. So we have learned quite a few concepts, and those concepts are enough to focus on our application. So what are we going to create here? So in our Node.js session, we have learned about services and we have created our REST API. And even we have deployed that to Heroku. So we will be consuming the same REST API here in Angular application. So we are not yet ready to consume it, but just I'm giving you a heads up that we will be doing that. We will integrate that REST API with this application. But before that, we need to do some groundwork. First, we have developed a REST API for products. So here I'll try to create a component products, the product list, which shows list of products. So let's go ahead and add one folder under app by the name product list. So usually the folder names are snake cased because the file names are case insensitive in Windows and they're case sensitive in Linux. So it's a good idea that you name it this way rather than going with camel casing. Say product list dot component dot ts. So I'm going to create a simple component first. I'll import a component decorator from core and use it that decorator, and I'll export a class. And this component will have a selector. I'll say app product list and then some template. At this moment, I just want to test whether my product list component is working or not. So I'll have one heading. That's it. We'll come back and add more stuff to it. At this moment, this is my simple component with one heading. So as soon as you have created a component, now you should go and add it to the module. We have only one module and I'll add that component to that module. That is product list component. Add an import statement. Here it is. Now the product list component is added to the module. Go to app component and try to consume that. Get rid of this app home also. App root is our root component. Here I'm consuming the product list so that we will see this in our web page. This is what? This is the heading. And if you do an inspect, we have app product list and one heading. So we have learned quite a few concepts, as I said. Now we'll focus on try to build up our application. So as I said, this is product list component. I would like to have few dummy products. First thing I'll say products. It is going to be of array of objects because product is not a simple number. So it will have some data and properties. So it's a good idea rather than initializing your data here. So let's go ahead and first initialize. Go with ID, brand, some dummy data. Just change the values as necessary. Let's add another property in stock. Here it is. So this is our source data. So instead of initializing the values here, constructor is the best place to do that. So let's create a constructor. End of the day, this is a component, but it's a class. So you can still have a constructor. And I would like to initialize it there. So let's copy this, get rid of everything. Just a declaration there. and initialization goes here. This is going to be this dot products because it's an instance property, the initialized. Now my goal is to show these list of products inside HTML. That's what the goal is. Still, you won't notice any difference in the UI, but the products are there on the component class. So let's use backticks here. And we have learned that ng4 is used whenever you want to show a list of something. So I'll create a div and say ng4 let product of products. These are my products. And I'll close this div. Inside the div, I want to show brand of the product. So each time this gives me this product is not an object. I cannot directly say H1 product. Let's see what happens if I say that. So it says object and object because it's an object actually. So you have to access properties, and we have learned that you can access properties using dot notation. So it's product dot brand, and that's when it will show up the name of the brand. Here it is. And I would like to show some other properties such as its model, product dot model, and its price, and then whether it is in stock or not. So I'm going to say in stock, product dot in stock. Here it is. All the properties I've consumed except the ID. ID, usually you won't show IDs. Here it is. I have Nokia N8 and then everything. So I want to divide each and every product. So I'll have a horizontal rule. This will add a horizontal line in between the products like this. Okay, this looks great. But if you closely notice here, what this 100 means, and this is ugly because you're not saying what this means. Probably you can have a price. Okay, you're saying price, but what do you mean by price? So we're living in a globalized world where a person from any part of the world can access any website. So which unit it is, which currency it is it dollar or rupee or euro, what it is? And that's another thing. And it doesn't look like a currency actually. So we have to improve that one thing. And before improving that, let's focus on the second field, in stock true. So in real world, we never use the terms true or false. We'll say yes or no in plain English when you're talking, whether it is in stock or not. You'll say yes or no. True and false are technical terms. Probably your user may not be techie and will not understand that. So we'll fix that issue. So it's easy to fix. We have learned that there are ternary operators, and you can say yes or no. If it is truthy, you're saying yes. If not, you're saying no. So with that one change, you are improving the experience a bit. Yes, no. But again, this yes, no is little hard to read. Rather than doing that, can I say something like this in stock? Can I have a type checkbox and bind the checked property? Checked is HTML property, and I'm binding it to in stock. See, whatever we have learned so far, now we are using in our application. Expressions, ternary operator, property binding. We'll use event binding also, ng for all these directives. See, now you have a checkbox, and it is better than saying yes or no. So let me get rid of this yes or no. and you're showing whether it is in stock or not, true or false, this way. And the problem with this one is it is editable. It should be read only. Nobody should be able to edit it because it's not meant for editing. So you know how to do that. You'll just use disabled attribute. You'll say disabled true. Now it is disabled and no one can edit it like that. Now coming back to this price, and this price needs improvement because it's hard to read and it's again impossible to figure out what type of currency you're trying to show. So I'll remove this price also. So that's when we learn concept pipes. So there are many different pipes. Pipes are to format the data. They won't modify the data, but they just format the data. You have data and you want to show it in a different format, and that's when pipes used. So you have uppercase, lowercase, title case, currency, date, async, JSON, and async. Yeah, these are some of the inbuilt pipes available. You might have already guessed uppercase. It's very easy. You want to turn something into uppercase. As it is a pipe, you'll use a pipe symbol. You'll say uppercase. And these pipes are called filters in earlier versions of Angular. And just the name is changed, but what they do remains same. See, now everything is converted into uppercase. Now you want to convert this model into lowercase. So you will use lowercase pipe. So coming back to our original problem, price. So let's see how can we improve that. So I'm going to use currency pipe. See, improvement. Now it says, okay, it's a dollar amount and it has two decimal places. It's easy to read now, understand that, okay, it's currency. It makes more sense. Like this, you use currency. But if you want to change the symbol, you can definitely change it by passing some parameter. So you need to go through the documentation to find out which currency symbol you want, either rupee, euro, or something like that. But the default is dollar. And the same way, if you want to show the date, so I'm going to have a last updated field here, say date.now. I want to show this last updated. Okay, for some reason it didn't show up. Okay, this is product dot last updated. It's not just last updated property. That's my bad. Here it is. We have some number and it's again, it is impossible to understand that this is a date. So with date pipe, you can pretty much uh, turn it into a valid date or at least a readable date, you can say. It was valid date initially as well, but now it's readable. So if you don't like this format, you can change it. So if you want to go with the US format, you'll say MMDD This is the parameter that you are passing to the pipe, the format like this. Now you have Feb 23rd, 2018, and if you want even hours and minutes, you can pretty much do that. And I believe you can have meridian as well. Not sure whether it is A. Okay, it must be something. Okay, it's not on top of my mind, but when you check the documentation, you'll find out if you want to know whether it is AM or PM. Even that can also be figure that that can also be shown on the web page. Okay, those are about pipes, and the other pipe we have is JSON. So when I said products is a property on the class. So this is going to give you object. It will not show you list of products, and this is not in readable format. It's an array, and you have object inside every array. Like three objects you have, and it is showing something like this. And it's not going to help you in any way reading. But if you want to read it, if you want to convert it into a string, you'll say JSON pipe, and that would be stringified and shown on the web page. Here it is. That's JSON pipe. Async pipe, we'll talk about that later when we are talking about HTTP request. But these are the pipes, and very simple concept and simple to use. You can create your own pipe. We'll see that how we can create our own custom pipe. We'll see that later in this course. Let me get rid of this JSON. And you have title case also. Title case is nothing but the first character, first letter is going to be uppercase. That's title case. Okay, let's hit refresh. And now try to focus on improving this application. So rather than adding features. So one thing is the problem with design, and this looks like probably the old legacy website. Things have changed. The web designing is evolving. So we can improve this rather than adding some CSS styles and trying to focus on that and wasting our time. We can use Bootstrap to improve this. So that way we will learn how you can add Bootstrap to this application. First thing, install it. So I'm going to install Bootstrap, say npm install Bootstrap. I want to use 3.2.0, say -s to add it to the package.json file. Once it is added, you need to go to angular CLI.json and add styles here in the styles section somewhere here. The reason you need to add styles here is because you cannot add it to the index.html. This index.html is always recreated by Angular CLI. It is created when you build it. So it is dynamically created. So if you add it here, that change would lost. So one way is add here. I'm going to add it here. I'll say node underscore modules, bootstrap, dist, CSS, bootstrap dot CSS. This is the exact location of bootstrap, but I need to add dot dot slash one level up. The reason is this CLI is considering SRC as a root directory. So node underscore modules is one level up SRC. So that's why I need to put this dot dot slash. So that's adding Bootstrap. Whenever you modify Angular CLI.json, you need to kill it and restart it because you have modified the Angular CLI.json. So if I haven't talked about what is this file, this is a configuration file for CLI, the utility. So it has some information is such as what is root directory and what is the output directory. If you don't like it, you can change it. And what are the assets? Assets are nothing but images and so on. And what is your index.html? What is the main file and so on. So you have some information, and this information is used while building your application. Okay, looks like installation is done. Go to package.json file to make sure that it is actually done. In the dependencies, we have Bootstrap and 3.2 is the version. So go back and say ng serve -o. Here it is. As you might have noticed, the design is already changed. The font, at least the font, is changed with the addition of Bootstrap. Now go back and try to add some Bootstrap classes so that it looks a little bit nicer. So here I'll change this class to a well, a Bootstrap class, and I want to wrap everything inside a class which spans 6 columns. I don't want this to take the entire screen like this. Probably this heading is too big to see, so I'm going to change that. So change it to H3 or H4. Here it is. Now it looks better, and this is where we'll be spending some time because this is where we would be adding more and more features. The first thing, now let's go ahead and talk about this one. So the date. If user wants to know like when this product was last modified, so user has to run a calculation. As I said, probably we have discussed this in Node.js session that you show information rather than showing the data. So I want to use moment library to show when this was added last time rather than just throwing data at user. So let's go ahead and add moment. So we're going to say npm install moment minus minus save. So go to angular cli.json one more time, and that's where we would be adding our script tags. So we will have script somewhere here. Here it is, and say it is under node underscore modules folder, moment, and moment.js is the script tag. We have added style tag just now. So as I said, if you modify this cli.json file, you need to kill and restart it. Let the installation complete. Okay, the installation is done. Now restart our application. So my goal is to show when this was added, or 2 days ago, 1 day ago, something like that, that information. So go back to product list component here, and I'll create a function. So we have learned that you can call a function from an expression. So let's create a function. I'll say get relative time, and I'll pass a date string, and I'm going to call moment from now method. So we have already seen all these things when we were talking about the Node.js. So let's import moment. I can say import star. Okay, I'm importing everything from the library moment, and I'm calling moment.from now method. So save this, and the application is not broken. I need to consume this get relative time function. So it's a good idea you make it private. And here I'm going to say div product dot last updated get relative time, and this accepts a function which is nothing but product dot last updated. You're passing that parameter, and that's it. Here it is. It says a few seconds ago and so on, like this. So what I've done, first I've downloaded moment, and second thing I've added a script tag reference, and third thing I've imported it, and finally I've created a get relative time function, and I'm calling that function by passing the last updated. This gives me a relative time. It converts this date into a relative date. So here we are actually breaking one principle, and you're trying to format the data. You're not actually doing anything other than formatting the data. Just now we have learned that if you want to format the data, you should you should do that in a pipe. So let's try to create a pipe now itself, because we have few more minutes left. So rather than creating a function here, I want to move this logic to a pipe. The reason I need to move it into a pipe is, if I want the same logic inside home component, let's see, I need to copy and paste this code and consume do the same thing here also. I'm going to say get relative time one more time like this. So this is duplication. Again, we have learned that duplication is bad. So good idea is move this into a pipe. So it's very easy to create pipe. So far we have created components. Let's see how can we create pipe. So I'll create a shade folder because this is not a component. Inside shade folder, I would like to put that pipe. I'll call it time pipe. First thing, you'll create a class time pipe and you'll export it, and you'll decorate it with time. I'm sorry, pipe. And you will have a name for this, and that name is nothing but time. You need to add an import statement for this time pipe. Here it is, a simple pipe, and this actually implements one interface, pipe transform. Add an import statement for transform also, and there is one error because this pipe transform has a function transform and you're not implementing that. That's why that red squiggly line. So implement that one, and this returns a string. There is now one more error. The reason is you're not returning anything. So I'm just going to cut the logic which I have written in get relative time and paste it here. I need to import this moment. Let's even copy and paste that logic as well. Cut this and paste it. Okay, to summarize things, I've created a pipe which implements pipe transform interface, and this transform function has to be there. As I told you, pipes are to transform the data or format the data. We need to have this transform function inside this time pipe. So I'm taking the input and I'm converting this and throwing back the output in a string format. And the decorator that we have used is pipe. So far, we have learned component decorator, pipe decorator, and ng module decorator. Okay, this is created, and everything that you create in Angular should go inside a module. Go to app module and add it to the declarations array. Say time pipe. Add an import statement. Save this. Now go to our product list component. No need of this get relative time. No need of this line. Nothing is needed. Get rid of this. In the product dot last updated. Okay, just copy and paste it. Here Instead of using inbuilt pipes, I'll use my pipe, which is time. Like this, you can create your own pipe. Come back. Okay, looks like it is not updated. Save all the files. And here we are. See? So the advantage that we got is we are not breaking the principle of Angular, saying that, okay, data has to be transformed using pipes. You cannot write a function and transform it. That's one thing. And second thing, this is centralized. It's shared across throughout this project. So you can consume this pipe from any component, be it app component or be it anywhere. So I'm inside my app component. I'll have some dummy date here, say 0 to, let's say 0 to 20, 2018, and I'll use time pipe on it. I don't have any logic for this time anywhere, but it has gone inside a separate file altogether. Okay, looks like I've broken something. Let's see what is that. Okay, looks like this is because of this single quotes. So let's wrap this inside backticks, put this inside single quotes. Okay, that's the issue. Double curly brace, not single. See, it says 3 days ago here somewhere, like that. So this time pipe can be consumed from anywhere. But if it is cool that you want to share it in your company, you can share it across the different projects. That is allowed, or you can make it a node module and put it on the internet and community can also use it. That's how you create reusable components in Angular. So we'll stop here. I believe we have discussed a lot of stuff. First thing, we talked about directives, and then we have created a product list component, and then we have included bootstrap, and then we have included moment, and we have learned about pipes and how to create a custom pipe. I'll say bootstrap and pipes. So in the next session, we'll see how to make a web service call and get the data, because we are showing the dummy data, but I'll show you how to get the data from a web service, and that will be in the next session. So I'm not available tomorrow. We'll meet on Monday. Monday is going to be the next session.